Dans 20 minutes. Et il n'est pas là, Laurent. Si, il est là. Il est là. Il faut lui dire... Non, il intervient tout de suite. Il faut lui dire qu'il vienne, c'est le premier après. Donc il intervient dans 5 minutes. On y va là? On lance le truc?
Bonjour à tous, merci d'être venus aujourd'hui, en dépit des grèves, en dépit des problèmes, on est là. Merci à tous, on est en plus filmé sur Internet, donc tout va bien. Pour ceux qui ne sont pas là, hello Internet World. Merci à tous les inscrits participants à cette conférence, donc la deuxième édition de la Modern Workplace sur Paris. Merci à tous les sponsors, je crois qu'on peut applaudir tous les sponsors. Ils vont pouvoir, certains se sont présentés hier, d'autres se présentent aujourd'hui. Vous pouvez aussi aller les voir sur les stands, il y a 18 stands je crois de mémoire, donc n'hésitez pas à aller les rencontrer, discuter un peu de leurs offres qui sont pour la plupart complémentaires de ce que peut proposer l'offre Microsoft, ou qui sont des sociétés de services d'ingénierie, de conseil, des ESN comme on dit, spécialisés, plus ou moins généralistes autour de l'offre Office 365 qui nous concerne aujourd'hui. Cette conférence, elle est, on aime bien dire, de la communauté pour la communauté, from the community to and for the community. Donc vous avez ici le comité restreint, on va dire, d'organisation, et puis un comité un peu plus élargi avec qui nous ont aidés, avec Joël et Sabrine qui nous ont aidés sur la sélection qui était difficile de toutes les propositions de session, puisqu'il y avait on a eu beaucoup de propositions de session. Donc vous avez un choix de qualité en termes de speakers. Il y a des gens qui viennent de très très loin, qui ont des choses très intéressantes pour la plupart à dire, je pense, sur des sujets très variés qui vont de l'adoption à des points techniques très très poussés dans Office 365, dans Microsoft 365. Un des points essentiels de la conférence de cette année, qui a été dit à Ignite, et c'est important de le dire et de le redire, il y a quelques années, Microsoft 365, donc ça doit faire 1 an ou 2, a été introduit comme un bundle marketing. Aujourd'hui, c'est le produit en fait. Donc de plus en plus, vous verrez des couches d'interaction à l'intérieur des différentes composantes de Office 365, Windows 10, EMS, qui viennent donner de la cohérence à l'ensemble. Tout cela ne serait pas possible sans la communauté AOS, qui est une communauté que nous avons créée, que nous faisons vivre, j'ai envie de dire quotidiennement. C'est un ensemble de professionnels passionnés sur ces sujets Office 365, Microsoft 365, qui organise régulièrement dans le monde des événements. Donc on a eu, vous avez une belle carte du monde aussi, on a eu l'occasion cette année en particulier de faire des événements dans des endroits assez difficiles pour se concentrer, comme Nouméa, Tahiti. Sébastien nous vient directement de Nouméa, d'ailleurs il a fait un événement là-bas, il y est resté, c'est quasiment ça. Et d'ailleurs je vais lui donner la parole pour la suite.
Voilà, donc pour les gens comme moi qui viennent de très loin, et pour l'ensemble des conférenciers, je veux dire, on voyage aujourd'hui beaucoup dans le monde, et on ne peut pas négliger l'impact que cela peut avoir. Donc pour l'ensemble des speakers qui sont là aujourd'hui, qui sont là hier, qui étaient là hier et qui étaient là avant-hier, la conférence va offrir des arbres pour compenser l'empreinte carbone liée à nos déplacements. Voilà. So, dear speaker, you should soon receive an email to explain you how to plant the trees that you will receive. Faire notre métier aussi, on a la chance de travailler dans un secteur où, je veux dire, l'important pour nous, c'est ce que nous faisons. On a une culture de doers. Donc, que vous soyez une femme ou un homme, quel que soit l'endroit d'où vous veniez, quelles que soient vos préférences, eh bien, aujourd'hui, le choix de la collaboration, c'est aussi le choix de l'inclusion. Donc, la conférence aujourd'hui, par exemple, dans les efforts que nous faisons, du moins, on est capable aujourd'hui de quasiment atteindre la moitié des sessions qui comportent au moins une speakeuse, en plus d'un speaker, ou quasiment que des speakeuses. Voilà, donc l'inclusion de vous, mesdames. L'IT manque de femmes, et on espère pouvoir promouvoir votre présence parmi nous. L'agenda, très important. Les conditions sont assez exceptionnelles pour l'événement. Il y a eu des modifications. N'hésitez pas à vous référer à l'agenda qui est en ligne. Donc vous pouvez scanner le QR code qui est ici. Vous le trouverez aussi sur les écrans qui sont dans les différents couloirs. Ce soir, grâce à Laurie, je ne sais pas où est Laurie.
Is Laurie in the room? Yeah, we can applaud Laurie from Microsoft Corp.
Un meet-up est organisé à quelques pas d'ici, la barge. C'est gratuit. Il y a moyen de se faire offrir quelques verres à l'œil. Par contre, il faut s'inscrire sur le meet-up. Donc là encore, scannez le QR code. Vous le retrouverez aussi dans les slides de session. Sur le Wi-Fi, si vous n'avez pas, et à l'heure actuelle, si vous n'arrivez pas à tweeter, c'est normal, il n'y a pas de réseau 4G dans la salle. Donc il est indispensable de vivre avec le Wi-Fi dans les locaux Microsoft. Le code est ici. Et la dernière, c'est toi ou c'est moi? C'est moi? Bon. Si vous souhaitez recevoir les présentations, et je pense qu'elles sont assez intéressantes, pour les recevoir directement par mail, scannez le QR code qui est ici, il y aura un petit formulaire à remplir. C'est aussi l'occasion de pouvoir demander à recevoir les informations de la part de nos sponsors, sans qui, encore une fois, l'événement ne serait pas possible. Patrick?
Ouais. Un des derniers slides, évidemment, il y aura ce soir encore des cadeaux à gagner pour ceux qui auront le courage et l'envie de rester jusqu'à ce soir. Donc, une Surface Pro, 2 Surface Go, il y aura un haut-parleur Jabra, des choses comme ça, très intéressantes, très sympathiques. Il faudra juste être présent et avoir la chance d'être tiré au sort avec son petit nom. Grande nouvelle, nous annonçons la nouvelle édition pour l'année prochaine. Alors plus que l'année prochaine, ce sera 2021. On saute l'année 2020. On saute le mois de décembre qui est un peu compliqué. On va essayer d'avoir plus de chance avec le mois de janvier. Et donc la prochaine édition, réservez déjà vos dates, sera en janvier 2021. Donc 18, 19 et 20 sur le même schéma certainement. Voilà, donc ça vous permet de remplir vos agendas déjà jusqu'en 2021, c'est quand même sympa. Qui, comme ça, vol pour point, viendra à la prochaine édition? Ouais, super, merci beaucoup. Maintenant, on va introduire donc 4 sponsors qui vont se présenter. Et ensuite, on aura le keynote de Vesa Juvonen, qui est responsable chez Microsoft de tous les aspects PNP, qui utilise the PNP stuff. Yeah, quite a lot of people. So I will have Vesa speaking about that in a few minutes. Laurent, it's you.
Merci Patrick. Merci Patrick, merci Seb. Je ne savais pas que tu avais quitté ta jolie Bretagne pour aller vivre au soleil. Temporairement, mais en tout cas félicitations, c'est un beau challenge. Merci à tous d'être présents. Je pense que c'était une journée pas forcément des mieux choisies pour les grévistes. Ils nous ont tous bloqués. Moi je crois que j'ai mis plus de 35 minutes à me garer. En fin de compte, je ne me suis pas garé, j'ai laissé ma voiture à quelqu'un qui est en train de jouer avec. Voilà, parce que j'avais envie d'être devant vous pour vous expliquer un petit peu pourquoi on suit depuis le début. Alors, tu as dit 2 ans, mais j'ai envie de dire 3 ans. C'était pas la Modern Workplace Conférence, mais quand Patrick est venu me voir il y a un peu plus de 3 ans et demi en me disant j'ai envie de monter quelque chose, ça va être un événement communautaire, je crois que j'étais le premier à dire oui. Je crois que j'étais le premier à sponsoriser et je savais pourquoi. Parce qu'en fait, on est tous des passionnés, que ça soit autour des technologies Microsoft ou d'autres technologies, mais aujourd'hui on est rassemblés autour du Modern Workplace, on est tous des passionnés de notre travail. Et la communauté est ce qui est le plus important. Aujourd'hui, vous le voyez bien, tout le monde partage de l'information. Alors la multiplicité des canaux de communication, on parlera que de Teams aujourd'hui, nous aide fortement à ça. Et j'ai juste envie de tous vous applaudir déjà pour ça, pour votre présence, et surtout pour votre volonté et votre plaisir que vous prenez à partager quotidiennement. Alors les MVP, les RD, mais en fin de compte, tout le monde. Tous les gens qui s'investissent quotidiennement pour partager leur savoir-faire avec d'autres personnes qui ne connaissent peut-être pas encore aussi bien que nous ces technologies. C'était notre première tagline, partageons notre savoir-faire, il y a 8 ans, quand j'ai fait le choix de créer Med6. Donc qui est Med6 ? Med6 est une ESN, comme l'a expliqué tout à l'heure Patrick. Il y a effectivement des éditeurs, des constructeurs, mais également des fournisseurs de services. On travaille sur différents volets, on travaille de différentes façons. Certes, on fait du Modern Workplace, mais on fait également d'autres choses dans cette sphère Microsoft, de la cybersécurité, toute la partie data et intelligence artificielle, de l'infrastructure. Et oui, nos clients ne sont pas tous dans le cloud. Certains sont encore on-premise ou hybride. Donc on se doit de savoir et de continuer à faire de l'infrastructure. Mais on fait également toute la partie business platform. Concrètement, c'est Dynamics. En termes d'approche, projet au forfait, assistance technique et de plus en plus de services managés parce qu'on se rend compte qu'aujourd'hui, nos clients veulent acheter de la qualité de service et non pas faire du body shopping dans des entreprises comme les nôtres. On est jeune, je vous l'ai dit, on a 8 ans, néanmoins une belle croissance, une des plus belles croissances dans cet écosystème. On est plus de 250 aujourd'hui, on va clôturer à plus de 35 millions notre année fiscale et on est présent déjà dans 7 villes. Alors pour commencer du nord au sud sans faire de jalousie, j'ai envie de dire que c'est Lille en premier, ensuite ça doit être Rennes. J'ai envie de croire que Rennes, non, Paris peut-être au-dessus de Rennes, mais c'est pas du tout une comparaison, c'est vraiment géographique. Donc Lille, Paris, Rennes, Nantes et Tours, on va mettre ça sur le défaut de ma bonne connaissance de la géographie, donc on les dira en même temps. Lyon et Toulouse, donc 5 villes aujourd'hui, de très belles annonces en début d'année 2020 avec l'ouverture de 3 agences à Strasbourg, Bordeaux et Aix-en-Provence, et sans doute d'autres qu'on pourra annoncer prochainement à l'étranger. Une croissance qui va être soutenue sur le début d'année par un investissement, donc on va faire une belle montée, une belle levée de capital qui va nous permettre de croître encore plus vite. En termes maintenant de présence dans cet écosystème, alors oui, on fait du Microsoft, oui, on a des Gold, oui, on a des Silver, mais j'ai envie de dire, bien heureusement, et je félicite nos consultants qui jouent le jeu des certifications, mais on a également un autre réseau de partenaires qui nous aident à grandir dans cet écosystème, à nous renforcer, à nous sécuriser, et que je ne citerai pas un par un, mais qui sont présents ici. On est également, et on fait partie, on est la seule société dans cet écosystème à faire partie d'Exatrust. Exatrust, c'est un groupement français de sociétés de sécurité. On est, entre guillemets, tamponné de ce label qui, j'ai envie de dire, qui définit tout un ensemble de sociétés françaises dont les fonds sont en France et dont tout le savoir-faire est en France et qui peut se prétendre, on va dire, proche de l'ANSSI et proche de cette petite sphère de la sécurité francophone. On est, grâce à nos clients et grâce à vous, présents dans plus de 250 clients. On ne va pas tous les citer, ça n'a aucun intérêt. Aujourd'hui, je félicite mes collaborateurs et je félicite aussi mes partenaires qui nous ont amenés là. Et pour grandir et continuer à grandir, étant donné que l'année prochaine, nos challenges sont plutôt ambitieux, et ben aujourd'hui, on a 150 postes ouverts. J'ai envie de dire, vous êtes des experts, vous avez envie de vous amuser, ben, n'hésitez pas à venir nous voir, n'hésitez pas à venir vous amuser chez nous. Je pense que les personnes qui sont présentes dans la salle de Med6 s'amusent quotidiennement. Et du moins, je me bats, mais vraiment tous les jours, pour que l'aventure Med6 soit juste fun. Merci Patrick, merci Seb, c'est un magnifique événement, je peux que vous féliciter. Et oui, on sera présent en 2021. Merci.
Pour cette confiance. J'ai le plaisir d'appeler un autre grand acteur francophone qu'on a la chance d'avoir sur Paris. Je pense que c'est beau d'avoir des sociétés comme ça sur Paris. Powell 365 et l'incroyable monsieur Vinard.
Alors j'ai 10 minutes, 8 minutes, voilà. Merci Patrick. Je suis d'accord avec ce que Laurent vient de dire sur le super boulot que vous faites là depuis quelques années et voilà, enfin on sera encore là en 2021. Donc rapidement, notre Powell 365, Powell Software, c'est une solution de digital workplace. Et alors on adore une phrase qu'on a découverte, je ne sais pas si vous connaissez, c'est Sam Marshall de Clearbox. Et il a il résume bien la chose, il dit que le digital workplace is a concept, not a product. C'est vraiment ça, c'est-à-dire que l'idée, c'est que voilà, vous avez des usages différents dans les entreprises, vous avez des plateformes différentes, vous avez des outils différents. Mais à la fin, l'idée, c'est d'offrir quelque chose à l'ensemble de ces. Et notre base notre socle, c'est Office 365. Pourquoi? Parce que d'abord, on pense que c'est la plateforme la plus riche du marché. Voilà, de temps en temps, on parle pas des concurrents, mais je veux dire, quand on voit l'offre collaborative d'Office 365, il y a quelque chose à faire. Et les clients, en fait, ce qu'ils nous demandent, c'est de les aider. Les aider à 3 choses. La première, la plus traditionnelle, disons l'origine de l'intranet, c'est la communication. Voilà, onboarder ses employés. Ce qu'on commence à voir de plus en plus aussi, c'est de la business application, c'est-à-dire de se dire, bah, après tout, on est dans le portail, est-ce qu'on peut aller se connecter à tout mon environnement métier? Et puis évidemment, les clients, ils ont choisi Office 365, ils ont par exemple Teams, et les clients nous disent, bah, si on pouvait profiter de notre intranet, donc notre Digital Workplace, pour accélérer sur Teams notamment, ou sur Yammer, ou sur bien d'autres choses. Voilà, donc en fait, notre offre pour le 365, c'est essayer de répondre à ces 3 sujets, et essayer d'y répondre en allant très vite. Parce que la grande nouveauté, c'est que maintenant, les clients sont très pressés. Je ne dis pas qu'ils n'étaient pas pressés auparavant, mais maintenant, on nous demande d'aller extrêmement vite. Et donc, l'idée, c'est de pouvoir déployer des portails, des Digital Workplace, aller en 1 mois, 2 mois, 3 mois, 4 mois. 4 mois, pour nous, c'est un maximum. Et puis aussi de répondre à tous les besoins des utilisateurs. Donc, évidemment, tout le monde a son PC, mais aujourd'hui, de plus en plus, on voit des gens qui ont des mobile workers, etc. Et à chaque fois, les réponses en application sont tout le temps un petit peu légères. On fait un petit peu de responsive design, de l'intranet, on voit les news, ça suffit. Non, c'est pas l'attente de nos utilisateurs. Donc, on s'est en une apps extrêmement puissante et qui donne accès en fait à tout ce que vous pouvez retrouver sur le Workplace. Et on a même un produit qui s'appelle Powell Hub et qui répond en fait c'est une application Windows 10 à des gens qui souhaiteraient en fait accélérer l'usage des applications et qui de temps en temps dans l'intranet peuvent se retrouver un peu perdus. Voilà. Donc en fait on passe notre temps à enrichir notre offre. L'idée, c'est que voilà, on n'est pas sur une réponse monolithique, on essaye de s'adapter. Alors, vous avez évidemment notre produit phare, c'est Powell 365, voilà, mais qu'on va enrichir avec de l'application. On va enrichir aussi, on va annoncer au mois de janvier Powell Teams, parce que là, on a énormément de clients qui nous font des demandes de gouvernance. Est-ce que vous pouvez nous aider? Et puis, comme vous travaillez déjà avec nous, que vous avez déployé notre application chez tous nos collaborateurs, autant essayer de tirer parti de votre savoir-faire. 80% de nos développements proviennent du retour de nos clients et de nos partenaires. Donc ça, c'est un point très important. En fait, on a une communauté de clients et de partenaires. On leur dit, qu'est-ce que vous voulez? Voilà. Alors, évidemment, si c'est une demande un peu spécifique et puis il y a une seule demande sur nos 250 clients, bon, on va se laisser un peu de temps. Et puis, évidemment, quand c'est une demande un peu plus riche. Donc, l'idée, voilà, c'est améliorer l'expérience utilisateur, aussi bien sur son PC que sur son mobile. Et puis, surtout, on a une centaine de partenaires, on en parlera juste après. L'idée, c'est d'aller vite. Et un point important, j'en parlais ce matin avec une société de conseil, enfin, je sais pas, l'Eco, je ne sais pas si vous les connaissez. Et j'en disais, il y a un truc qui est incroyable, c'est que aujourd'hui, quand on sort un intranet, une Digital Workplace, aujourd'hui, elle doit être, je veux dire, elle est dans un certain format, et il faut que dans les 6 mois, elle soit autrement. Il faut qu'en 2021, on ait engagé de nouveaux usages, qu'on ait éventuellement décalé des choses qui fonctionnent un peu moins bien. Et donc, on doit être aussi dans ce mouvement. Et c'est pour ça qu'on insiste très fort sur le côté management de nos solutions. Alors, les clients, on est assez fiers parce qu'on touche tous les clients. Alors, de l'entreprise de 20 personnes jusqu'au groupe La Poste, à peu près 200 000 utilisateurs. Voilà. Dans le monde entier, on touche tous les secteurs d'activité. Voilà, c'est ça qui est incroyable. En fait, il y a un point commun, c'est des clients qui veulent vraiment tirer parti d'Office 365, qui souhaitent faire une solution qui est dans Office 365, sur leur tenant, et qui va pouvoir comme ça suivre le développement de cette solution. Et puis dernier point, on est français, comme voilà, donc basé à Viroflay, dans le 78, et puis voilà, on s'est pas ouvert, on a commencé par les États-Unis, côte est, côte ouest, voilà, maintenant on est à Londres, en Allemagne, à Dubaï, à Hong Kong, on a ouvert en Afrique du Sud, voilà, et ce qui compte pour nous aussi, c'est nos partenaires. Donc, comme je vous rappelle, il y a des partenaires dans la salle. On a, je crois on a une centaine, un peu plus, 110 partenaires dans le monde, plus d'une vingtaine en France, et on offre, je pense, une valeur qui est très forte. C'est vous permettre d'abord aller très vite chez les clients et surtout de déployer du change, parce que là aussi, si on sort tous ces produits, en fait, c'est pour accompagner les clients à l'usage. Et le change est au cœur de notre stratégie. Voilà. J'ai essayé d'aller rapide, hein, comme ça. Je vais pas consommer les 10 minutes. Voilà. Merci. On a un stand, hein, donc le stand, quand vous sortez, là, après le café, c'est tout au fond. Et on pourra répondre à toutes vos questions. Voilà. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Donc, les suivants, ce sont nos amis de BSD. Lionel, tu as la parole. Donc, si tu démutes, ça doit marcher.
Allô, allô. Ça fonctionne bien. Merci. D'accord, très bien. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Avant de commencer, je tenais à vous dire à quel point nous sommes heureux d'être là. Et je le dis au nom de toute l'équipe que je représente aujourd'hui. BSD est une société de services dont je suis le directeur commercial. Je tenais aussi à remercier la communauté AOS, même si ça a été déjà fait largement, mais c'est toujours bien de le refaire, et ainsi que tous les partenaires dont nous faisons partie, sans qui l'événement ne pourrait pas avoir lieu, bien évidemment. Alors, qui sommes-nous, BSD ? Alors, BSD est une société de services, ça je l'ai déjà dit. Nous ne sommes pas une start-up. Certains d'entre vous ne nous connaissez peut-être pas. C'est pour ça que nous avons essayé d'avoir un beau stand et puis d'être ici présents. Alors, nous sommes vraiment, vraiment heureux de faire partie de cette communauté, de sorte faire partie de cet écosystème avec qui toujours faire des choses de plus en plus belles, toujours plus unifiées, toujours plus cohérentes, toujours plus innovantes et toujours plus collaboratives. Donc BSD, nous avons 25 ans, nous sommes de taille relativement modeste, nous sommes 25 collaborateurs. À la création, nous adressions surtout les sujets de messagerie. Très vite, nous sommes allés sur le collaboratif. Aujourd'hui, nous travaillons essentiellement sur le collaboratif Microsoft, sur les segments Cloud Productivity et Collaboration and Content, donc Office 365, SharePoint. Alors, nous sommes très très forts, hein, mais enfin néanmoins, nous nous appuyons sur un certain nombre d'éditeurs partenaires. On peut citer ici Nintex hein, pour tout ce qui est produit de workflow, ShareGet, Let's Sign It pour les outils de signature, Valo qui est un produit de Digital Workplace qui a eu l'Awards la semaine dernière, hein. Yubico pour la sécurité, et puis pour les migrations, BitTitan qui est représenté ici, Binary Tree. Voilà pour la présentation de BSD. Nos domaines d'activité, la collaboration et le teamwork, le modern workplace bien évidemment, hein, toujours bien évidemment aussi la migration et l'hybridation pour tout ce qui concerne le passage à Office 365 en particulier, le business app pour le développement de vos processus métiers, sans oublier et de manière transverse la sécurité, puisque une fois qu'on est dans le cloud, c'est encore plus important qu'avant. Voilà, alors vous allez nous dire, bon, bah voilà, BSD est une ESN, une de plus, ouais, ok. Simplement, ce que je voulais essayer d'exprimer, c'est que nous avons en quelque sorte une idée, une vision qui est que ce qui nous semble important, c'est que vous puissiez aller au sein de votre organisation toujours plus loin pour tirer les bénéfices de ce qu'on pourrait appeler votre intelligence collective. Notre intelligence collective. Alors l'intelligence collective, aujourd'hui on parle beaucoup d'intelligence artificielle, etc. Ça ne s'y oppose pas, ça s'oppose plutôt à l'intelligence dite individuelle. L'idée c'est de profiter du nombre pour converger le plus vite possible vers les solutions. Tout à l'heure Jean-Pierre parlait de rapidité, et donc de manière satisfaisante pour l'ensemble, le tout de manière agile. Donc pour ça, nous proposons des hommes, des idées, des outils pour vous aider à aller toujours plus loin dans le super collaboratif. Alors que dire de la coopération En nombre, bah écoutez, on n'est pas les seuls à en faire. Des animaux comme les fourmis ou les abeilles le font très bien. Simplement, elles ne sont pas très agiles. Elles sont même très spécialisées. Que dire de la coopération agile? D'autres animaux, tels que les loups, le font très bien, mais ils ne savent pas se coordonner à beaucoup. Alors nous, ce qu'on essaye, c'est de réunir les trois aspects. Hein. La massivité, pourquoi? En fait, il y a des études très sérieuses qui montrent, donc là je fais référence à M. Servan-Schreiber et l'intelligence collective, mais des études très sérieuses montrent que face à un problème, dès que vous demandez l'avis à quelqu'un, en fait, vous divisez plus que par 2 votre risque d'erreur. Et donc en multipliant les avis, comme ça, on voit que le risque d'erreur décroît très rapidement jusqu'à arriver à un nombre où c'est plus utile, mais bon, voilà, la massivité est importante. Que dire de l'agilité? L'agilité, c'est la souplesse. Tout le monde dans cette salle, enfin une grande majorité d'entre nous utilise Waze, surtout en période de grève. Enfin, utiliser Waze, ça ne veut, pour aller d'un point A à un point B, ça ne veut pas dire que vous ne savez pas où vous allez, ça veut dire simplement que tous les 20 ou 30 mètres, vous vous repositionnez par rapport à l'objectif. Et donc voilà, donc notre idée force, c'est de pouvoir vous accompagner pour développer votre intelligence collective, pour toujours être plus efficace, plus collaboratif. Et pour ça, nous avons des offres. Alors une offre qui s'intitule Hello 365, qui s'adresse à toute organisation qui souhaite migrer à Office 365. Une offre phare aussi qui est en lien direct avec ce que je viens de dire juste avant, qui est Adopt 365. Alors c'est une offre qui consiste à vous offrir, oui j'ai bien dit offrir, 2 jours de consulting gratuit, parce que bien souvent une fois que vous avez migré, on se retrouve face à des gens qui se disent voilà, j'ai toute une potentialité, plein de choses à faire, de belles choses à faire, mais je ne sais pas exactement par quel bout prendre le sujet, ni comment correctement l'adresser. Donc là, nous, ce qu'on vous propose, c'est de venir à vos côtés, vous écouter, repérer vos enjeux, vos objectifs, et vous dire tout ce que vous pouvez tirer de cet environnement riche qui est Office 365. La deuxième journée, on l'a dédié plutôt à vous livrer un rapport, à vous rédiger et vous livrer un rapport de préconisation. Alors tout ça reste du business, bien évidemment. L'idée, c'est de quand même pouvoir continuer à vos côtés avec d'autres de nos offres. Une offre Modern Workplace, travailler de n'importe où, de manière toujours plus cohérente depuis n'importe quel média. Une offre Business App pour le développement de l'automatisation de vos processus métiers, avec une approche low-code si possible, mais si besoin, on est capable aussi de développer des applications de workflow complexes et spécifiques, à base de formulaires, à base des workflows à plusieurs étapes, etc. Et puis de manière transverse, une offre Microsoft 365 Security. Alors, pour plus de détails sur ces offres, je vous encourage bien évidemment à venir visiter notre stand, qui est là pour ça. Donc continuez de venir nombreux à visiter notre stand. Alors il est facile à trouver, il est juste en face du bar. Voilà. Une autre motivation. C'est la meilleure place, ouais. C'est clair. Et une autre motivation à venir nous voir aussi, c'est que on a organisé un petit jeu concours, nous aussi, qui doit vous permettre de gagner des clés Yubico. Alors, sur notre stand, vous pouvez venir flasher le code, mais vous pouvez le faire aussi directement depuis votre smartphone et depuis cette salle. Et donc voilà, et donc merci beaucoup pour votre attention. Je voulais surtout ne pas être trop long, j'espère que j'ai tenu cet objectif.
Parfait. Merci beaucoup Lionel. Nous allons pouvoir accueillir nos amis de l'UMAPS.
Merci. Allô, vous m'entendez bien? Donc, je m'appelle Tuimi, je suis responsable marketing chez l'UMAPS. Est-ce que certains d'entre vous connaissent l'UMAPS, ont déjà entendu parler de nous? Oui, super. Donc, on est une société française aussi. On a aujourd'hui plus de 300 clients dans le monde, 4 millions d'utilisateurs. On est une société qui est relativement jeune, puisqu'on a été créé en 2014. On a la chance de croître très vite. Ça fait 2 ans maintenant qu'on travaille avec Microsoft. On a aussi une présence internationale, aux États-Unis notamment, en Asie aussi, et on a près de 200 employés aujourd'hui. L'essentiel de notre R&D est ici en France, on fait partie de l'écosystème French Tech. Voilà. Le cœur de notre métier, et c'est là d'où on vient, c'est la communication. La communication, c'est quelque chose de très important, puisque c'est un des leviers stratégiques pour l'engagement des employés. Et l'engagement des employés, c'est un concept qui peut paraître un peu abstrait, mais qui a des impacts très concrets pour l'ensemble des entreprises. Un impact concret sur l'expérience que vous offrez aux clients finaux et bien sûr sur la rentabilité de l'entreprise en général. L'engagement des employés, ce n'est pas une notion qui concerne uniquement les RH ou la communication interne. De plus en plus, l'IT est extrêmement impliqué dans ces problématiques, puisque les solutions que les employés utilisent au quotidien participent à leur expérience employée et ont un impact crucial sur ce facteur clé qu'est l'engagement des employés. Je pense qu'une des difficultés, on le sait tous dans le monde d'aujourd'hui, c'est qu'on a énormément d'outils, des outils formidables, mais on en a beaucoup. En moyenne, les employés ont 35 applications. Ils naviguent entre ces applications plus de 1000 fois par jour. Donc c'est très compliqué quand on est au bureau aujourd'hui, quand on est un knowledge worker. Nous, notre ambition chez Lumaps, c'est de simplifier cette expérience employée. Et on le fait, bien sûr, en utilisant les outils Office 365. Pour vous rendre ça un petit peu plus concret, je vais vous montrer quelques exemples. Et c'est vraiment notre démarche chez Lumaps d'accompagner les clients pour développer des use cases qui répondent à leurs besoins. On n'a pas du tout une approche technique, on a une approche très business avec nos clients. Et comme vous voyez ici, différents exemples, on les aide à améliorer l'expérience employée à différentes échelles. À l'échelle de l'employé en tant que tel, à l'échelle d'une équipe, d'un département, ou à l'échelle plus globale de l'entreprise même. Et on va même plus loin que l'entreprise en interne. On accompagne aussi les entreprises dans leur communication en externe avec ce module de Employee Advocacy. Je ne sais pas si vous connaissez l'Employee Advocacy. C'est le fait de donner la possibilité aux employés de relayer, de partager des messages de l'entreprise à leur réseau personnel sur les réseaux sociaux. C'est quelque chose de très intéressant qui se développe beaucoup. En France, on est un petit peu en retard, mais aux États-Unis, c'est déjà très utilisé et c'est très efficace. Nos clients, on a mis ici beaucoup de clients français, on a aussi des clients américains. On a 6 clients dans le CAC 40. Voilà. On adresse des entreprises de toute taille. On est particulièrement flexible et c'est pour ça que les grandes entreprises nous aiment beaucoup. Voilà, donc Airbus, Valeo, Servier, Essilor, Air Liquide. Voilà, on travaille aussi avec des boîtes plus petites comme Le Monde. Voilà, dans toutes les industries, partout dans le monde. Voilà. On a une session cet après-midi à 13h50 dans la salle numéro 4, juste là-bas. Je vous invite à venir nous voir pour en savoir plus. On a également un stand juste à l'entrée. Vous ne pouvez pas nous louper, juste à l'entrée, à côté de la porte. Et voilà. Si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas à venir nous voir.
Merci beaucoup. Donc maintenant, je vous propose d'applaudir et de faire une ovation à Vesa Juvonen.
Here we go. So let me actually flip my computer here, and we'll do a quick switch, and then we get moving.
Just for a few minutes to get the time pour que Vesa ait le temps d'installer son PC. Effectivement, il y a des sessions sponsors en début d'après-midi. N'hésitez pas à y aller. Il y a celle de l'UMAP, s'il y en a d'autres. Et ça sera Une des points forts, je pense, de cette édition, c'est d'avoir des témoignages très intéressants par les sponsors. C'est pas du tout des sessions marketing comme on peut l'avoir dans d'autres, des fois, même on a eu des sessions très marketing. Là, on a des sessions très intéressantes de retour d'expérience de clients sur les différents outils. Donc c'est vraiment, j'en ai suivi une ou deux hier, c'était très intéressant ce type de retour d'expérience réel et non pas tout est beau, tout va marcher. Donc c'était ça qui était intéressant dans ce type de session.
Good. A few more minutes. Let's see if we can get the screen.
Yeah.
It is coming. Here we go.
Yeah. Jeff should be.
Okay, it's not flickering. Good. That was just the start. So we'll get there. That seems to be working. And then I just need my mouse somewhere in here. Good. All good. I'm kicking the shoes away. Okay, so I think we are good to go. Let me actually drop that one as well. Sorry for that. Now we're good to go. Okay, welcome everybody. So this is the second day or third day keynote, and we're going to talk about how the cloud transforms the way we build, deploy, and consume products and services. My name is Vesa Juvonen. I am a principal program manager in the Microsoft side, but before we go there, just a reminder, please go and talk to the partners in here, because that is the reason why these events exist. So please go and meet all of those partners in the expo area or throughout the conference center. Now, my name is Vesa Juvonen. I am a principal program manager nowadays in Microsoft. I've been in Microsoft for 13 years, and as part of this keynote, what I wanted to do is not talk about really the developer side of the house or technology. Sure, we're going to do some few demos here and there, but talk about the transition. And I wanted to make it kind of a personal, and I wanted to make a story behind of that as well, because I've been in Microsoft now for 13 years, like mentioned. I started as a consultant in 2006, right when SharePoint 2007 was about to release. How many of you has worked with SharePoint 2007, just out of curiosity? Half of the room, so that's pretty good. Because whatever we have right now in the cloud actually originates a lot from the SharePoint 2007 and the time frame. And what I wanted to do is kind of tell a story how the cloud came to be as it is, and how it transitions, how we build solutions, how partners build solutions, how customers use the solutions as well as part of this. Like mentioned, I started as a consultant, then I came to be a senior consultant in Microsoft, then a principal, then I moved to Redmond organization, and then I moved to the engineering. So now I'm part of the underneath Jeff Tieper, Omar, Adam Harmetz, actually owning some of the features in SharePoint Online or in Microsoft 365 nowadays. But I've kind of seen the transition. I work with some of the largest companies in the world in the car manufacturer side. I worked as a SharePoint Ranger. So whenever somebody called Jeff Tieper and complained that my SharePoint isn't working, I need somebody here, staff. Then I got a call and said, hey, tomorrow you need to fly to UK. And then I flew there and drank some coffee and had a discussion with the person. And typically that was more than enough to make them happy. But that's part of the consulting role, what I did. Sure, you needed to be a technical as well. But like I said, I'm going to keep it, there's some bad jokes on the presentation, so hopefully nobody's getting offended. Well, that's not the objective. But we're going to go through some of the historical things. So we're going to start from my actually historical things. So I started my IT career, or studying in 1995. And one of the things what I built, how I get to be in my first proper IT job, was that I built actually as a student, I built a web shop, so you could actually use the Nokia 7110 to browse a book catalog and buy books. And it was implemented using ASP, whatever technology. But when I implemented that for ICL or for Jitsu at the time, I was all the time thinking that why would anybody actually buy anything using mobile? It doesn't make any sense, because you can go to the computer and buy the stuff. Funny enough, for my Christmas, my kids' Christmas gifts, all of them have been bought by using my mobile phone. for this year. So the situation has changed quite significantly. And this is a good example of not a well-known person, just me, not being able to predict the future, right? Not being able to understand where the future is heading, which is actually really interesting. Because there's a lot of historical things where people don't really understand the impact of those inventions or the impact or the direction where we're heading. Really, really old thing. A Western Union basically invented telephone. They didn't understand what was the groundbreaking thing about the telephone, and they did basically predict that it will not be the number one thing, which it's an interesting direction. Well, we're not going to spend that far away on a history, obviously, during the presentation, but let's get back on the timelines. That's a pretty interesting prediction as well. So Nathan Myhrvold was a Microsoft CTO back in 90s. Apple is already dead, 97. That's not really true. I was checking yesterday the prices of the companies. Apple again is the most expensive company in the world. They bypassed again Microsoft. So we're competing one-to-one, head-to-head on the stocks on that, on the price of the whole company. But anyway, wrong prediction. But if you think about the historical things, so, and I'm going to wildly talk about things from our competitors' perspective as well, because Amazon, sure, they have a awesome cloud service as well. And as a customer and as a partner, it's a good thing to understand what's available there, what's available in Microsoft 365, what's available in other side. So make your decision based on the right values. They actually released their cloud service, their platform as a cloud service first. We didn't have, as a Microsoft, we didn't have Azure. We didn't have Microsoft Azure available back in 2006, way ahead of the time. And I'll come back on that one and the timelines slightly later. But that's actually even before we released SharePoint 2007. So they were actually quite ahead of the time. To be fair, Amazon is a network. It's a shop in the internet, so it made sense for them to start offering their services within the cloud. At the time, I joined Microsoft when I looked much younger than I look right now, back in October 2006. I joined Microsoft to be the SharePoint consultant. And afterwards, I heard that there was 4 interviews, and it was a 50-50 tie. Do they actually want to take me on the Microsoft? Because I had no previous knowledge about SharePoint, which obviously has changed quite significantly for the 13 years, but it's a good example. So I actually got into Microsoft at the time, and then I started learning what does the intranet mean and what does it mean, and all of this actually has an impact on the future, what we're doing in the cloud. I lost okay, here we go. But that was the feeling when I joined Microsoft, at least for me, because I was horrified. I couldn't believe that I was able to convince them to actually hire me, and I have a massive imposter syndrome, still do. So I really couldn't believe myself on these things. But obviously my manager says, no, it's fine. We will train you on these things. You'll go to the customers after you know everything, how things work. And because it's an American-based company, you know how this works. It works like this nowadays as well. 2 weeks later, you're good to go. You know everything about SharePoint, not a problem. You are really good to go to the largest telecom communication company in the Nordic area and take care of them. And obviously my feeling at the time was like, really? But the product what we were actually selling was this one. It's actually kind of interesting, historical things. So we're going to spend some time on the historical things because this is actually kind of funny. We luckily have evolved quite significantly from this moment. This was the Microsoft Office SharePoint 2007, and it looks slightly different. This was the selling part of the SharePoint 2007. It was the first kind of a monolith solution, and it was highly successful. We, as a Microsoft, we had no idea what's going to be the success of SharePoint at the time. There was SharePoint Server 2003, but 2007 actually combined the communication servers, content, I can't remember now, I'm losing my mind or the memory, but we combined multiple products and make sure that it's one product you install and you get everything. Which was a good idea at the time, but actually the times have changed quite significantly if you think about the current situation, with how many products we're using and how do we sell the things and all of that. But let's get back on that one slightly later. So SharePoint 2007, you get everything. It's awesome. You get content management, you get .com sites, you get search, you get all of these things. We also wanted to make sure that every single customer wanted to have SharePoint deployed. Those who've been along working on this time frame, every single customer had one request, at least in the Nordic area, was that, hey, I want to have SharePoint deployed, but it should not actually look like SharePoint, which is like, wow, but wouldn't it make sense if the product, it looks like SharePoint and it behaves like SharePoint? So it doesn't matter which SharePoint you're using, it has the same look and feel and it behaves differently, the same way, rather than every single deployment is different. That wasn't the case. At the time, everybody wants to have their unique thing. So in my case, I spent quite a lot of time on learning how to do stuff. My graphical skills were not super good, but I was able to get, as an example, design at 2 a.m. in the morning before one customer deployment. And it doesn't look like SharePoint. It looked something completely different. But that was a functional SharePoint site. To be fair, this is one of our training materials back in 2007, but it was functional SharePoint 2007. Now the downside of all of the story is that nowadays you actually don't want to do this because the change management story is different. How do you train your employees if every single week or every single solution is different? How do you make sure that they can actually use the solution if it looks completely different than SharePoint? So we're moving away, luckily, from this moment. Now, in 2007, also, you needed to worry about the server-side reliability because there was no cloud. You were unable to trust that the specialists were actually running the show. You as a SharePoint consultant or an administrator, you are the ones who needed to figure out what does the unexpected error actually means, because that was the message which were happening. Sure, you could go to ULS logs and figure it out and all of that, but you needed to be a rocket scientist to make these things happen. Funny enough, you don't need to worry about these things anymore, because somebody else is providing you those services through cloud, unless you're still doing on-premises, which is an option, not necessarily the preferred option, but it's still an option. Now, all the graphical things, this was the architectural design, logical architectural designs. Some of the pieces actually still exist in SharePoint, which is a slightly more limiting factor even, and I'll come back on that one slightly later. What was interesting, a side note on this one, what was interesting when I was creating the material for this presentation, I did quite a lot of Googling, binging, on the internet, searching the graphical pictures and things, and what I found was a lot of this stuff. And funny enough, all of these things are actually drawn by me. So as part of my journey, I was the one who created the presentations and graphical things for our partner ecosystem. So all of the graphics, if you've ever seen all of this stuff, it is actually drawn by these hands, which is actually pretty cool. So my core skill is more on the PowerPoints. No, just kidding. But what is actually interesting around these things also is the maturity of things. Just a side comment. Notice these three persons over there. And this is SharePoint 2010 timeframe. We can see that there's Elvis, there's Condoleezza Rice, and Donald Trump. That was the classic chunk. Nowadays, it's not necessarily that good joke anymore, though. If you can actually, the other things which you can notice that this is SharePoint 2010, the chronological architecture, and when we went to the SharePoint 2013, it was this one. So we needed to actually make things look much more professional. But it's actually kind of funny. These are small, shady guys who are trying to access your intranet externally. Anyway, bad joke. Let's get back on the presentation. Now, that one we went already through. Now, moving along. Not going to spend too much time on the historical things. Back in 2007, iPhone was released. Our CEO at the time, I was already employed by Microsoft, made a statement, iPhone is not going to do anything. And I'm carrying an iPhone, so it's kind of awkward. Well, he's no longer our CEO. He's no longer part of Microsoft, so who knows. Back in 2008, by the way, if you try to use an iPhone connecting to our Microsoft email, it actually was physically blocked. So there was a filtering in the Exchange in Microsoft that you could not access your corporate email by using an iPhone, because they were convinced that iPhone is not going to actually win, which is like, that's not how you do business. Luckily, we evolved as a company to a completely new level, and nowadays we embrace our competitors. We embrace the different devices. We embrace the diversity of the customers and the devices and services which are being provided. Now, moving along on the journey, Microsoft Business Productivity Service was released in March 2nd, 2008. This is the first time when we actually had a collective cloud from Microsoft and released stuff like Office Communication Server. We released an Office Server Online as well, but it wasn't really that flexible. Because at the same time, in on-premises, people were able to do those crazy marketing designs and branding designs, but in the cloud, that wasn't really available. Because we needed to host multiple customers in the same platform, and it was highly limited. Now, that's luckily changing in the future. Now, but what's interesting about, actually, let's get back on this one. What's interesting about the service offering, what we were doing here, a lot of these things what we were actually doing, it was basically us just hosting the servers in a cloud, and then saying that, okay, now you can access the services, and you can use the same exchange, but it's actually hosted by Microsoft. What's interesting about that one is that still, at least at the time, and still this comes up still, nowadays even, what does the cloud actually mean? What does it mean that quite often this comes up when we have discussions with customers that they actually have outsourced their IT, their Exchange, their SharePoint already, but they don't consider that cloud because they outsourced to their IT partner. And they're hosting that in their data center, but it's not cloud because that's their hosted service, but what is actually cloud? But to be fair, isn't it the same thing? The cloud is actually just someone else's computer. And that's by the way, how do we do cloud backups? No, just never mind, bad jokes. Now, moving along again on historical things, to a more present time frame. Windows Azure was released in February 1st, 2010. Funny enough, it was called Windows Azure. It wasn't Microsoft Azure when we released that. And this was basically the first time when we truly came up with a cloud operating system. And we know how successful the Windows Azure has been. And more sure we're using Azure inside of the Office 365 as well, and I'll do demos on that one slightly later. At the time, Ray Ossie was our CTO in Microsoft, and he was supposed to be the lead and taking over Bill Gates' situation. But he actually left Microsoft in 2010. But hey, these things do happen. But Windows Azure came, and Windows Azure was first a PaaS service. So it was a platform as a service offering, which actually hit Microsoft quite hard, because the problem with the platform as a service offering is that people don't quite understand the fact that what it is, especially in 2010. So almost a decade ago, it's like, yeah, but you can have these services in the cloud and you can build your application. Yeah, but I want to have a computer. That was actually the feedback. And this is the moment where, to be fair, I think Microsoft lost some of the game, and we've been now gaining a lot of that, is that Amazon actually started positioning infrastructure as the cloud, as the default option for them. And we didn't have that offering at 2010. We came up with an IIS offering quite late, or later as a Microsoft. And now we've been catching up, and it's all good. It is now definitely both sides are in a good shape. But it's an interesting thing. The platform as a service was the first thing in the cloud, but people were unable to understand what it actually means. That you don't have to go and update the Windows. You don't have to go and operate things, because that's what you need to do in infrastructure as a cloud. Now, moving on things, SharePoint 2010 theme sites looks nice. It's evolved, not massively, nothing major. A lot of new features, but nothing too dramatical there. SharePoint, Microsoft Office 365 was actually launched in 2011. So we're finally getting closer and closer to the moment. That was using SharePoint 2010. A lot of the customers at the time who moved to the Office 365, they basically said, can I go to Office 365? And I only want to use SharePoint. Can I get rid of all of the other things? Luckily, that's changed nowadays in many customers. So they understand that there's a lot of additional value in Office 365 as well. At the time, Larry Ellison, who's the lead of the Oracle, is nicely explaining that he couldn't understand what the cloud is all about. Oracle nowadays is betting on the cloud. Larry Ellison is the CEO of Oracle, but at the time he's saying, I have no idea what this actually means. And to be fair, there was a lot of customers and partners who were fighting against this transition as well. But it is really hard to predict the future and where we're heading without understanding. Without having the experience, and without afterwards, it's really easy to look back. Now, SharePoint 2013, we had a nice theme site design, a new design, and it's using those tiles and all of that, so that's all good. At the time, I was still looking pretty young, so it wasn't too old, and I was still wearing a glasses, which is fine as well. Clearly moving to engineering after this one was the wrong mistake for me, because now I start looking too old. Getting back on the presentation, did you notice that we jumped a version? Now it's 2016 SharePoint, and that's actually a really interesting thing. Sure, at the same time, there was a lot of stuff happening in the cloud, but this was actually the moment where people really started understanding that, well, wait a minute, the innovation actually happens in the cloud rather than in on-premises. Because with 2013 and 2016, the changes are actually quite minimal from an on-premises perspective. In a cloud, we were going full ahead and new features coming up all the time. But what actually happened at the time also was that we had a really impactful leadership change coming back, a leadership change in the Microsoft. So after 2013, Jeff Teper actually went away and he did some additional other work. But after 2016, he actually came back. So when we go back on thinking what was the difference and what was the root cause of this, is that Jeff Teper took a while to actually come back. Well, that was the feeling behind seeing the 2016. And Jeff Teper came back on July 16, 2015. Those who do not know, Jeff Teper is basically the father of the SharePoint. He created the original SharePoint already back in 2000 or 2001. Almost 2 decades ago, which is interesting. He's, by the way, the guy who recruited Satya Nadella. So pretty good recruitment. Now Satya is his boss, but hey, that's fine. Maybe you don't want to be the leader. Being a CEO of Microsoft is not an easy job to do, right? And maybe you don't want to actually take that position. But Jeff came back in 2015, and obviously that was the moment where a few years back, or if you think back, between 2013 and 2016, there was not innovation in the Microsoft intranet side of the house, the collaboration side of the house. Teams didn't exist at the time yet. We basically were using the same experiences, and it was kind of a, what do we want to do? We had a different leadership at the time in OneDrive and SharePoint, and that person was driving and pushing OneDrive. For those who've been around for a while, can remember that we actually at some point said, OneDrive has an unlimited storage. And then we said, oh, that's going to be expensive. Let's not do that. OneDrive is no longer unlimited free storage. Now you're going to have to pay for it. People are laughing on the audience, and some of you, so you've seen that. That was a stupid move. So that leadership was changed, and Jeff Teper came back, and now OneDrive is not free, but it's quite cheap, actually. It's not super expensive. Now, and as part of this transition with Jeff Teper, and as part of this refocusing on what do we want to do within the cloud and collaboration platform and at the intranet perspective, we then released SharePoint 2019, SharePoint Online. To be fair, it's more SharePoint Online first, and then SharePoint 2019 is just a fork from the SharePoint Online from a certain time frame. And then removing all of the advanced capabilities, because in on-premises, you can't take advantage of Azure. In cloud, you can do that. You can do really cool stuff in the cloud, but you can't do that in on-premises because on-premises is limited with the on-premises capabilities. SharePoint Online has evolved quite significantly since, and obviously we're working really closely with Microsoft Teams on making sure that the SharePoint and the whole end-to-end Microsoft 365 experience is consistent, and you're able to surface the experiences here and there. So a lot of movement on that side of the house. Now, are we really truly ready for embracing the cloud, or really truly going to the cloud? Which is an interesting thing. There's a lot of sessions in this conference as well related on the fact on Microsoft Teams. And nobody is actually challenging anymore that, hey, can I have a Teams which is deployed only on-premises? Well, that doesn't make any sense, right? But from a SharePoint, we're still getting that request. I need to have the latest and greatest for on-premises in SharePoint. But then, are you using Teams? Yes, we are. What does it mean? Of course, the Teams is only cloud, because that's where the functionalities are. Now, funny quote from the IBM leader as well. I have a computer in my laptop, well, multiple computers. That one is a computer. Anyway. It's really hard to predict the cloud. At the same time, if you think about the cloud and the adoption of the cloud, There's multiple technical limitations. There's multiple things which have to be ready. Mark Anderson is the co-founder of Netscape. Some of you might have actually heard about Netscape. It was the #1 browser at some time. Before then, Internet Explorer came to be #1, which was a bad mistake. And now we're luckily fixing these things. But they actually really were trying to invest on the cloud. They had a massive visions around what the cloud can actually do. But the technology wasn't ready. So the technology was missing. For example, the reliable bandwidth was missing. Nowadays, you can actually connect all around the world using any device to the cloud, which is now finally opening up those scenarios. The fact that I can edit my presentation, that same presentation using this phone, and you could see those edit live on that screen. That's pretty cool. So we can finally have a reliable access on things. But if you think about the historical things, this is not actually nothing super new. The vision of things is actually interesting. So SunPlay, this was brilliant random thing which I pumped into a few weeks back in Twitter. There was one person who used to work in Sun and explaining what they actually had. I think it was back in 80s. They had a SunPlay. Every single employee had that white card in their wallet. And they went to a screen or a computer, they plugged it in, and poof, you had a vision, your computer coming from the centralized location. So it was a VM running in their cloud, and then you could actually move to another location or another screen just by plugging the white card, and that would open up the connectivity. Brilliant vision, but way ahead of the time, because the reliable bandwidth was not there. They were unable to actually make it reliable because just simply the physics of the technology which we had at the time was not good enough. But the vision is exactly the same still. If you think about the applications what we are using, if I'm using OneDrive, I'm using SharePoint, I'm building stuff on the cloud, I can build stuff on that computer, go home and open that same presentation in another computer, or I can access the same emails in multiple different devices. So we're finally getting there. But it's all about having the right moment of a time and having the technology cross the stack in the right maturity level, which is pretty cool. Now, for us as a Microsoft, one of the big changes, obviously, also as part of the cloud, is the transitioning from the 3 years release cycle to once-a-week releases. If you think about SharePoint, I'm from a SharePoint organization, so I can relate on SharePoint super closely. I know Teams has a slightly similar model as well. We are releasing a new version of SharePoint every single week. It used to be completely different. We used to think about what do we do, then we used to think about and doing planning of something, and then we did the implementation, and then we shipped it, which basically meant that whatever we planned 2 years ago is now going out, which was already outdated at the time when we released the stuff, right? Because we needed to plan and implement that, it took time to be able to then access on what you were visualizing, what you were actually doing. 2006, 2010, 2012, 2016, it's the same thing. The kind of the cycle of development was different. Now with the cloud and SharePoint Online, we are seriously, if I check in code to the code base today is Tuesday, yes it is. It would be actually in some of the servers within a week. Because it would roll out and it would be compiled, it would be starting to roll out automatically to the servers, and then I'm able to enable the feature whenever I want based on my requirements. So really the cycles of development are going smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And this changes actually a lot of the business what we're doing. This changes also how we can modify things. This changes also how we do change management, because it's not like you can do change management, train your company and employee once, and then, hey, we're done for the 1 year. Not true, because the product is evolving all the time. Which is an interesting challenge for us as well, because I know that it's an interesting challenge for partners, it's an interesting challenge for customers. How do we keep our employees up to date? Just yesterday we had the training and now they came up with something new and it works differently. How do we do this? That's an interesting challenge to have. And how do we actually address that? Well, I don't know if there's a silver bullet on it, but it's obviously videos and continuous development, continuous adapting, that there's the change. Embracing the change rather than denying the change. And sure, maybe we as a Microsoft, we need to figure out maybe the once a week introducing things is too often. Maybe we should do twice bi-weekly or once a month, big bang, and you would know beforehand what's coming rather than, oh, there's a new button. Well, interesting. And you click a button and you have no idea what actually happens. Unless you follow up on the MVPs who are then promoting on social media, hey, now the conversation names have been switched to posts in Teams, as an example. Apparently was one finding of one MVP earlier today. Now, but really what we want to do is, in the Microsoft, we moved from this model because we need to address the change. We need to make sure that whatever you give us feedback, is it working or not, we need to address that immediately. And this is actually a good thing, because this is the only and with the cloud we can actually do this, because in on-premises we don't control your servers. We can't push a new version to your servers in a matter of days, but in SharePoint Online we can. Or with Microsoft Teams, which is a cloud-born product, you can absolutely push new features on the server side and enable those in the UIs of the functionality. It's a good thing for everybody. This was a question which I got actually from one MVP quite recently, who haven't really yet understood where we're heading. There is no major versions of SharePoint anymore. Why? Well, there isn't. It's cloud burst. There is no SharePoint 20X version which goes to the cloud first and then it starts dropping into the on-premises. Doesn't exist. We go cloud first every single week or bi-weekly or which functionalities. Sure, there might be an on-premises version which will be a reduction of all of the advanced capabilities from cloud. But it's not a major version, and definitely not. Cloud is actually already heading forward fast. If you think about SharePoint 2019 as an example, it is a version what the SharePoint Online was back in January 2018. Sorry, 2018, yes. So basically, cloud is already 1.5 years forward with the experience. Now, to be fair, in cloud, it's no longer just about SharePoint, and it's other things as well. I'm sure the Azure side of the house is helping as well. By the way, June 2012, Azure finally actually introduced virtual machines, so we're pretty late on the game from that perspective. But all of this is, Azure is finally getting more and more attention in this time frame as well. Now, obviously, the return of investments expectations have completely changed. I used to work in the time frame where customers had budgets for next 3 years. So they basically, hey, we want to renew our intranet, and there's a budget of 600,000, and then we invest on that, and then we not invest for the following 2 years. Because the assumption was that you invest the 600,000, and then we'll be fine for 2 years, and then we need to again allocate the same budget for renewal of the intranet. The situation have completely changed. Also, end users are expecting constant improvements. They see new stuff in the social media. The situation is changing all the time. The speed of change impacts everything, obviously. The business are some business users. They're looking into having new things and new value out of the services as well. And we need to be able to push those functionalities available. Every now and then it feels like there's no way for catching up. And the innovation is going way too fast. But good example of this innovation and the speed of innovation is actually the fact that we needed to even drop quite significant technical things, like we dropped Microsoft Certified Master Program. This continued in January 2014 because there was no way for us to keep up with the change. I know that there's quite a few MCMs in the room. I can see at least few MCMs in the room, Microsoft Certified Masters for SharePoint. They know the story as well. But there was no way, I was an instructor in that program for 18 rotations, but there was no way for us keeping the material up to date. Because every single quarter there was a new rotation, a new training, and new material. So the investments of keeping everything, the training material up to date would have been just massive, and nobody was willing to actually pay for it because the speed of innovation goes so fast. So we needed to drop the uber technical training thing. Still, I'm proud of being an MCM, but it doesn't matter that much because nobody knows what it means. Except my kid who's 8, when he heard about the fact that I'm Microsoft Certified Master, he's like, what? Like He-Man or something? Yeah, I'm a Master, Microsoft Certified. He has no idea what it means. So he was just super impressed that he's playing obviously Minecraft, and then at some point I said when the kids, his friends were at the living room playing, and I said, yeah, Daddy is working in the company who owns Minecraft. Wow. Nothing to do with Minecraft, but now everybody thinks that I'm actually behind of the Minecraft, which is kind of cool. Not going to fix that assumption. Anyway. Do we really need to have complex branding? So if you think about the branding thing, especially if you come from the SharePoint side of the house, this is actually an really interesting discussion. We get this discussion all the time if you concentrate only on SharePoint. We need to have a massively cool-looking designs and everything else, and now you're taking all of these things away. Is it still a thing? If you think about, for example, Microsoft Teams branding, yeah, Microsoft Teams branding is pretty consistent. Sure, you can embed different functionalities inside of the Microsoft Teams, but it's not like everybody's asking that, hey, I want to flip the colors of Microsoft Teams. No. So why are we asking, as an example, that you need to flip the colors of SharePoint collaboration site? Well, do you even collaborate anymore in SharePoint? Is that a SharePoint thing, or is that a Teams thing? It might be that in your company you already moved to Teams. Teams is being positioned as the collaboration platform. And sure, behind of the scenes, we're using SharePoint in the Teams as well for the file storage and experiences, and you can surface portals and cool stuff on there as well. Now, I needed to add that completely imaginary mock-up there, so making sure that somebody's taking a picture saying, hey, Vesa said, we're going to have a custom branding in Teams, and now somebody in the front is looking at me so bad. Now, the thing is, obviously, we don't want these kind of things to happen. Why? Because it has a change management impact. You'd have to train your employees. Why would you need to have a custom image, custom colors, and all of that? And please don't tweet this as in a wrong way, because I will hear about that in a bad way. I needed to add the text there, just making sure that nobody's taking that in a wrong way. So obviously, it's logical. We don't want to do this because we want to give you a consistent experience. Now, inside of the frame, inside of the certain experience, inside of the tab, that's a different thing. But if you think I'll go back on my awesome graphical user designs in SharePoint on the left side here, on the right side here, is that still really a thing? Do we want to invest on making things looking crazy rather than embracing the fact that what is the additional productivity value, what these products are actually providing, or additional capabilities and features what they're actually providing? In the past, we spent way too much time on the graphical side of things. And sure, we can still do cool stuff, and I'll come back on that one slightly later. Now, a lot of talking. Whew. Okay, continue. Now, key advantages of cloud-based services. Obviously, we know these things. We heard about these things. Known costs, a big thing. Again, I used to be a consultant in Microsoft. One of the number one things where people were complaining was the fact that, well, why is our SharePoint deployment again down? So, or why do I need to call Microsoft consultant to come and fix this SharePoint deployment, which is not working because I thought that the server is running underneath your table and nobody can access that. And it's fine, and that caused additional costs, right? With cloud, we give you an SLA. If we fail on providing you services on that SLA, we will buy you back money. We will give you back money because you're buying with a monthly fee. And as a CIO or the lead of their company, you are investing on a certain set of licenses. You know exactly what's the quarterly budget, and there's no surprises, hopefully, on the money that you're spending. New features getting delivered constantly without massive version upgrades projects, if done correctly. And there are ways of actually not doing this correctly, and let's not talk about that one today. But all the time we are pushing new features. I think the number one, it's an interesting challenge. There's what we talk already. On the other side, we get feedback that you're pushing too many features. We can't keep up. What is happening? But then at the same time, people are also saying, well, already in Ignite or already in a SharePoint conference, mentioned this thing. Why isn't it already out? And then it's an interesting balance for Microsoft on what do we push and when is it good enough and when do we release that for the end users. But really the key here is to access securely from anywhere using any device on the same information, which is really, really interesting and really, really powerful thing. Making that thing to happen in on-premises, as an example, that was a really difficult thing. And I don't think anybody is looking into doing that anymore, hopefully. Is the cloud secure enough? Is always a discussion. We get this question in the Ignite, in our booths all the time. Is it secure enough? Secure enough comparing what? Secure enough comparing to the server which is running underneath your table in your office? Well, yes, it is much more secure than that. Secure enough than the servers which are run by your IT department in your personal data center? Well, yeah. I think it's more secure than that from a physical security perspective because Microsoft actually as a company is dependent on our data centers being 100% secure. rather than your company, as an example, hosting your servers in wherever your servers are being hosted. One of the great examples of this question was, or kind of a funny question as well, it was a year ago in Ignite. We were in Orlando, and there was a random guy walking on the booth, and he started this discussion that, hey, so we're not convinced that it's the cloud secure enough, so how can you convince that? And then we talked about the fact that, sure, there's a security certifications. You can go to Microsoft site. I think it's secure.microsoft.com, where you can find all of the certifications and EU legislational things which we follow and all of that stuff. And then my manager asked from the guy that, hey, so have you ever thought about the fact that where do you keep your money? Do you use a bank to keep your money in a bank, or do you use all of your cash at home? Well, it's like, yeah, of course I put them in a bank. Well, why do you put them in a bank rather than having the cash at your home? Because it's more secure. Because bank actually is convinced or betting their security on making sure that money is in bank and everything is being secured on the bank side. Rather than you betting the same amount of money as the bank is actually doing, securing whatever you have at home. That doesn't make any sense. Then the follow-up question was, or comment was from my manager. So we think that as a Microsoft, we can absolutely guarantee, we have cards on the data center, and we don't really think that any of our customers and partners can have more secure physical location for the data center. And the person actually came back and said, yeah, I don't think so. I think we have a much more secure environment. I'm like, okay, wait a minute, so where are you working from? And you go and have a look on the thing. And he was working in a Lockheed Martin, the world's largest weapon manufacturer. It's fair, but there isn't that many customers who actually are making weapons and secure their environments using that level of a security. But anyway, on the cloud of secure enough, not really my specialty, but go and have a look. If you still doubt on these things, go and have a look on all of the data what we have available in our websites and all of the certifications which we follow. Now, time back to where we started. From SharePoint 2007, some of you have been there, some of you have seen that. That was the selling point of 2007, was that we have everything available. Now, from that monolith, we're moving to this interesting combination. This is, by the way, from the jump365.com. This is a really awesome periodical table of Office 365, where we actually list all of the different services what you can. And then you, as a partner or a customer, you can, based on your licensing, slightly different more functions are available. Their own versioning. All of those different things are releasing new functionalities all the time. So there's thousands and thousands of people developing new features and functionalities for you based on that monthly fee, which is a really great thing as well. And then we have partners who are investing on top of that and making additional value on top of that. But if you think about how this is actually tied into together, we as a Microsoft, and especially, for example, in the case of SharePoint, we're more and more heading to the direction where we're taking advantage of Azure. Obviously, Microsoft Teams is already built on Azure because it's cloud-born. A lot of the other services are built using Azure as well. Azure gives you the technical tooling. We then give you the service as a service, or the SaaS service on top of it, which is basically the Microsoft 365. So you don't have to build your end user experience on top of Azure, because we give you that, and then you extend on top of that. And underneath that, we have the Microsoft identity. So as part of these examples, obviously Power Platform is integrated in SharePoint. This is a good example. Power Platform has its own versioning. It moves forward in a different way. It has its own licensing as well than SharePoint, and then they are getting tied into. But SharePoint can be easily in Teams, and Teams data structure and the storage is backed by a SharePoint. So all of that is getting kind of a link between each other in the Microsoft 365. Or even more interestingly, when we're using the cloud, as an example, the Teams will release the tasks for Teams relatively soon. Not necessarily a massive feature. Some people love that, some people don't. But for me, the most interesting part of that task feature is the fact that it is your tasks. It's the same task which you can access using a Planner UI or whatever UI, and using your mobile phone or using your computer. It's not a tasks inside of the Teams, which is a team-specific task. No. It's your tasks. There's Microsoft 365 identity. Behind of your identity, there's my tasks. And then we surface those data in a multiple different locations. And that's actually mind-blowing when you start thinking the fact that You don't have to, you just store data in the cloud, and then you use whatever services, Planner or Teams or SharePoint or whatever to access the same information, depending on your preference. Not that you need to think that where did my tasks go? Are they in SharePoint, are they in there, or they're there, or they're there? No, you as an identity, and that always ties into the information. And more we are heading there. Also, what's interesting about this combination of the data and services is the fact that we are integrating the applications between each other. You make the decision. How do you access these things? If you want to use Yammer as an individual application, you can. But then at the same time, Microsoft Teams is being positioned as the hub of Office 365. And you can actually tie in everything to the Teams UIs as well. So in this case, using a Yammer inside of the Teams. Rather than going to the Yammer and use a Yammer in Yammer and then use Teams to Teams, let's actually mix everything together as a vision for Microsoft 365. That was a funny one as well when I was doing some research. Why would anybody have a computer at their home? Well, 77, okay, makes sense. Now, if you think about this transition, obviously, we as in Microsoft, if you think about especially in SharePoint Online as an example, again, I come from SharePoint and OneDrive side of the house. We are finally embracing the cloud truly as well. SharePoint has a lot of history and package, so to say, because it came from on-premises, and then we kind of forcefully put it in cloud and we started offering SharePoint Online. And it had a lot of technical limitations. But one of the key technical limitations for SharePoint is and has been the fact that we've been shipping the on-premises version. Because if we take advantage of the cloud, elastic data structures, artificial intelligence, machine learning, if we ship on-premises version of the same service, how could that happen? And you can't. Because the artificial intelligence, the logic and machine learning, all of those features are cloud dependent. Because we have an infinite capacity in cloud, we can actually truly take advantage of that. Now, we are now heading finally to the direction of truly taking advantage of the cloud in SharePoint as well. And it has implications, but it has good advantages as well. Project Cortex was something which was released in Ignite. We were super silent about this one before. Actually, we even changed the project name. Friday and Monday was the Ignite release. Why? Because we wanted to make sure that no leaks were actually happening. But what Project Cortex actually brings is that it actually brings the artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the intelligence of the cloud into SharePoint Online. And let's talk about the impact of that one in a second. But it basically is reducing the amount of work and time you need to spend on building something or aggregating information or setting metadata on documents, because why would you manually set metadata onto documents? Because if the data is in a document, why can't we use artificial intelligence to get the metadata of the document and then use that and in our implementation? And that's what the Project Cortex is all about. Adding that machine learning, adding that artificial intelligence. We will add also partner extensibility points on this one. So we're looking into having that available whenever the time is right. It's basically there to make sure that we have the automatic tagging, automatic metadata, reading stuff. It's there actually to create content even available for you based on the artificial intelligence. Let's have a look on that one in a second. And you are basically mining all of the data. So we are using the data what you have to drill and create additional content, relevant content for you. And let's have a few demos about this one in practice. So let's have a quick demo what it means in practice. And this is basically a knowledge-based articles which are dynamically created based on the content what you have. So this is a modern SharePoint page. In the modern SharePoint page, we have certain terms and functionalities mentioned. And those, as an end user, you're like, what is the core? Oh, that's a project. And we actually create all of this data and data linking and associations automatically, because we know that. We have the machine learning behind the scenes. You don't have to tie in the people who've been working on that project or behind of that functionality. We create these pages for you automatically. That's one step of machine learning and artificial intelligence, what's happening behind of the scenes. And then you as a end user or as a project owner, you can extend this if you want. These are just SharePoint pages. It's all based on a out-of-the-box functionalities. But getting that content available automatically, getting that additional information, additional context related on what you're having in the cloud is super, super important and saving a lot of time for your employees as well. Now, the second example is automatic content capture. This is really around the metadata. I mentioned the metadata, automatic capture of the metadata. And if you think about that picture on the middle, if we have machine learning, if we have artificial intelligence, wouldn't it make sense to automatically get the metadata from the picture? When you drag and drop the picture in, we'll just automatically track the information or get the information from the picture, because we can analyze that using Azure. We can put the metadata in the right place. We can see that the metadata is getting automatically then generated because it's detecting the information from here. We can also do stuff like teaching the project codecs or the content center behind of the scenes how the artificial intelligence should actually look like. If we have let's say a recurrent form which we are using, we can actually start filling out the data fields which the artificial intelligence and the machine learning should detect and get the metadata in place. And then you don't have to again worry. Next time when you drag and drop the invoice in, all of the metadata is automatically captured and you're able to access that. Really kind of making sure that we reduce the amount of time you as an employee need to spend on analyzing the data, getting the metadata, all of this manual stuff. No, let's teach the machine learning and Azure to actually do all of this for us. And like I said, we're looking into having a partner ecosystem extensibility and some of this stuff as well, so we're able to tie in to these opportunities. Really cool stuff. Now, that's a bad joke. It's not my computer. No, just kidding, just kidding. I'm just checking if you're actually watching what I'm talking. Because you need to have some jokes on the presentation. I know I'm pretty old. If you haven't seen this comedy piece, I'm pretty old. But that reminded me, on the blue screen actually reminded me on something which I wanted to talk about as well, which is the fact that how we transition, we touched that already. I can actually nowadays access the same document or same application using Teams, using SharePoint, using iPhone, using Android, using computer. It doesn't matter. But before that happened, it was different. We used to build applications which were in my computer. We used to build, let's say, automatic macros which were inside of my document. And what happened if your computer crashed? It was all gone. The data was gone because the data was on the computer. At least in my case, I've been having those issues in my own laptops where, let's say, the laptop goes completely blue screen, it doesn't boot anymore, and then you're stuck because the data and what you were having on the computer, and this makes you feel like this one because you can't actually work anymore. And that's really the transition where we're going again with the Microsoft 365. And that's why the Microsoft 365 has been so highly successful. And the growth is just phenomenal. We have 1 billion users across the work, life, and EDU, which is a lot. Sure, EDU is a big number, but we have 200 million of those who are actually paying monthly active users in the business side of the house. 18 trillion Microsoft Graph nodes. That's really around the fact that the data itself is in the cloud. The data which you're accessing is stored in the cloud based on a persona. So you, again, can use iOS, I can use computer, I can use even my Xbox to get access on the data behind of my identity. It's the one identity. I can use, if I'm a developer, I can use Microsoft Graph. If you're an end user, you don't need to worry about where it's coming from, but the tasks are your tasks again. My files, my documents, it doesn't matter where you access them from, it's my files and my documents. They are in your OneDrive and you can get access on them. You don't have to worry about the fact that my computer goes and dies. No, it's all in the cloud. Pretty recently, I had to reinstall my home computer. I have a Surface Book 2, which I use for traveling, and then I have a massive desktop at home for whatever reasons, and I needed to reinstall that one. What was really nice to see that because of all of my data is in the cloud, it was nothing more than doing a OneDrive sync, and all of the relevant documents were down. It didn't matter if I did a C drive format because nothing relevant was gone. It's all in the cloud, which is a great thing. Now, coming back on the branding, coming back on things, I'm going to do a few demos. We still have time to do this stuff, which is good. It's not just about the fact that we need to lose all of the branding and lose all of the things. But one of the really cool things which were released in Ignite, you should be aware of this. If you're not aware of this, please be aware of this, is the lookbook on Microsoft.com. And this is really around the fact that we want to help you to understand what's available in the cloud and what's available from a portal perspective and a modern portal experiences perspective in the cloud. And it makes that super easy for you. So you understand what's available and how to build similar experiences by yourself. And let's have a look on that one in practice. Now that I've talked already, 45 minutes? First demo. So let me actually jump in here. I'm in the lookbook.microsoft.com, so let me zoom in slightly so you can actually see the address, and it's over there. It is relatively easy URL to remember. What it is, basically, it is a one service where you can go and have a look on different kind of designs. So creating stunning sites and portals available. And there's multiple different templates. It's really important to understand that there's multiple different designs available to see what's possible with the modern SharePoint in SharePoint Online. And there's even solutions like Microsoft Learning Pathways, which will help you to teach your end users the adoption of the cloud. And that's, by the way, a brilliant solution built together with Teams people, they actually created that. We're just hosting that in our service. But what you can do from here is that you can actually then analyze the individual things. Apparently everybody likes our Ignite demos and cool landing portals. I'm going to use this time, let's use the landing. It's getting boring to show always the same UI, but it is the one which we used in Ignite as well. So in Jeff Teeper's demo, I think in many of the other demos, we showed SharePoint looking like that, which is kind of cool. We're able to actually have a look on what are the features of that site. So if you're interested in Mega Menu, I can click a button and you can understand what is the Mega Menu, how does it actually work, and all of that. Okay, that's cool. I can have a look on what kind of web parts are being used. So Yammer web part, okay, I can click that and I understand what the Yammer web part does, what's the limitations, and what's the options. But more importantly, this is the really, really cool piece. That's kind of cool to understand what are the out-of-the-box features, but it's not just that. It's also the fact that we have this magical button add to your tenant. Wouldn't it be cool that you would be able to use exactly the same demo sites and branding and samples what we used in Ignite 2019? And the answer is yes, you can. Yay! That sounded like an Obama statement. You can. But you click that to your tenant, and what that does, as long as you're a tenant administrator, which means that you need to use a trial tenant, or you can get a free Office 365 tenant if you're a developer from our developer program. You click that one. After that, it's nothing more than actually filling up one form where we're asking whether you want this URL and template to be applied. And I can do site/the landing 789. And when I transition away from the box, it's checking me, is it already in use? Apparently that's already in use. I've done quite a few demos, so let's actually change that one. 1, 2, 3, okay, that's still in use. 1, 2, 3, 4. Validating, still in use. Okay, so let's do 1, 2. Yeah, I found a free one. Now, you can actually provision this on top of an existing site, but there might be complications on that. If the welcome page of the site is actually checked out, then our engine cannot apply on top of it. Now it's easier to actually provision all of this to a individual site collections. And the only thing what I need to do is click provision. It's going to validate prerequisites. It's going to make sure that you have the right permissions, everything is working fine. It's going to ask you to confirm. And it's going to tell what's going to be provisioned and some estimates on how long does it actually take. You will get an email then sent to the email address which you gave, and there's our provisioning process has started. Now in this case, slightly depending on which version we are running right now in the production, it might take 4 minutes or 5 minutes or 6 minutes, so I'm going to save some time and show you what's the end result. But basically what it means is that you'll get an email to this email address whenever the template has been applied. There's the URL. This is going to turning into a link whenever the site actually is being created. But if I go back on how it will look like, let me go here and do sites, and the landing 1, 2, 3 is my example. This has been provisioned using the provisioning service, the lookbook.microsoft.com. So it's an example site, a modern site with example content, out-of-the-box web parts as a starting point for you to understand what you can actually build. Example content, sample documents, sample images, all of that. So now you can actually truly have a look on, okay, that's pretty cool. How has it been built? You can put the page on the edit mode, and you're going to have analyzing on the web parts and understand how they're actually working, which should be highly beneficial for you. And obviously, if you are more on, okay, I don't really care about SharePoint, I really care about the Teams, and the Teams is the thing for me. Absolutely, makes sense. If you drive your collaboration through Teams, you can absolutely take advantage of all of this stuff in the Teams side as well. Because it's about combining the SharePoint and the features of SharePoint as an application in the Teams. Teams is the host, but then you can host and expose data and functionalities like news and experiences inside of the Teams as well. All for free for you to take advantage. And obviously, this is not intended to take anything away from our partners, not at all. This is more on helping the customers to understand what's available in modern SharePoint, and then we can further extend all of these experiences using the partner ecosystem. You can add additional web parts, you can add headers and footers and functionalities and additional branding on top of it. Is that cool? Yay! Good. So that was a quick point on the lookbook. I'm going to stay here because I'm going to do a few more demos as well. But you can absolutely, all of the stuff what we have in the lookbook, you can take advantage of this together with out-of-the-box capabilities with open source community extensibility. I'm actually responsible of the SharePoint OneDrive open source community and partner ecosystem globally. So really big thing for me, so that's why we're promoting these things as well. But what it means in practice is that all of the stuff which you just saw, this template which we applied, actually even the service is open source. So if you're a partner or if you're building experiences for your customers, you can actually find all of these experiences in GitHub as an open source solution. As an example, the provisioning service is open source. You can actually go to GitHub and have a look on, okay, so that's a pretty cool experience. What if I would actually provide a specific set of templates for my customer and ask them to sign in against their enterprise ID? And then provide a different template, modify the templates. Yeah, absolutely, all open source, all MIT licensed. You don't have to ask permissions, just pull it down, hopefully, and modify that and make millions, hopefully, if you like that model. All free, no questions asked. It actually gets even better. The templates which we are providing from that UI, so these templates which you're seeing, let me jump back on the lookbook. All of those different templates in here, if you're wondering on how were these templates done, I would like to have that template, but I would like to say change the fly safe to something else. Well, fly safe is a good, let's not save and change that to anything else. All of those templates are actually open source as well. So they are in SharePoint SPDev provisioning templates. Again, you can take advantage of those if you go to the tenant folder, if you go to the landing as an example, you can find the landing assets here, you can find the source of that template, and it's a PMP tenant template. And you can actually even find images and pictures and documents which we used as part of that sample. All free for you to take advantage. We don't really care. Hopefully you'll benefit out of this. Now, what about the end user experience of all of this? What about the fact that I would like to have the same experience for my end users? So my end users, this experience is kind of, yeah, that's pretty cool. But what if the end user goes to the SharePoint site and creates a new site? If you're using the modern SharePoint creation logic, you actually go here, you click the communication site, and I do apologize, I didn't, let's wait a while. No, I need to do, that's a nasty bug. Click that one, 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Not my feature, but we will give this feedback for some. Anyway, so I was lazy. We didn't change the text. We are using the same demo last week in the proc, so it's an ESBC custom template. But what the ESBC custom template is, it is a custom site design, which you could actually set as a default design to be applied whenever a site collection is created. And behind of that custom design, we are actually firing, let me go in here, a logic app in Azure. And in the logic app, we're basically just applying a template behind of the scenes. There's a Azure function which is getting fired, and we're applying the template with the given values and giving the web URL based on the provided URL by the end user. So from an end user perspective, the experience still remains exactly the same. Then behind of the scenes, we can extend the out-of-the-box experience to take advantage of Azure. We would be able to now provision, let's say, Microsoft Teams structures and new channels and tabs and solutions to make all of that ready for the end users as well, which is pretty cool. All of this obviously not available in on-premises, unfortunately, only in cloud because the Azure is in the cloud. Well, Kind of. I think in Ignite we were saying that Azure is coming to on-premises as well, but let's face it, it's always cloud first, and then certain capabilities can be in on-premises. That's pretty cool as well. I'm conscious about the time. I do have a few more demos which I want to do, and a few things to talk about. Now, where we're heading, not about just from a development perspective, one of the key things which is still kind of in the let's say code name level, and not from an end user perspective super understandable yet, is the fluid framework. And this is actually a completely new way how we're looking into building our documents. So the docx files are going to be changed, and you're creating, well, right now we're calling them fluid documents. But what it means is that on the, let's see, left is this one. So on the left side, you can actually see a fluid document. And from the fluid document, you can take fragments of the documents, and you can share those fragments, even in email, and send somebody that fragment and say, hey, can you update this one? Or in the example, what we're seeing here, we're taking that table and sending the table as a fragment of a document, for example, somebody else, and saying, hey, can you fill in this table? But what you see happening here is that we actually still update the original document, even though you send a fragment of the document to somebody else. But the original document is getting updated. So it's not just co-authoring of a one file, but you can just send, oh, this massive report. I can just send a table. I can send this fragment and say, can you take care of this paragraph and update that for me? And it's getting updated on the original side. And it is a real-time collaboration in the original file as well. Is that pretty cool? Yes. Somebody was always almost clapping. This European audience is so hard. It's fine. I'm from Finland. So it's all good. Finns don't smile. So it's all good. I'm an exception. 13 years in Microsoft. This is what it takes you. Now, if you think about the fluid framework, I'm going to actually, let's actually do this. I'm going to take a few more minutes extra time because this is actually really cool. I need to cheat for this one because unfortunately when I was testing this feature earlier today, we are heading closer and closer to a public beta. So you can get access on the fluid functionalities. And I need to do this in a video, which hopefully is moving. Am I actually doing something? Yes, I am. So this is a YouTube video which is available in our SharePoint Dev YouTube channel, which is actually showing the power of the fluids. There's a few things which we show in this video. First of all, we take this, the original document. Now we have side by side. We can actually see the real life modification side by side. That's not super interesting. That could be a different in different people across the world, which is kind of cool. But we can actually take that one step forward. Let's see how fast I actually get to there at that moment. We can take, as mentioned, a fragment of the document and open the fragment, only the fragment of a document. Come on. Oh. And open the fragment of a document and send the fragment of the document to another one. And what you see here is super cool. Right now they're not in sync. It's going to take a while to get them in sync, and I'm explaining on the video what's actually happening here. I think, there we go, it is actually, come on, update. My demos are now not going well. Here we go, we're reloading the file, and is it getting updated? Okay, it's getting updated in a second. It was the additional row which was confusing it. But basically, that file and the fragment is dependent on the data on the table. The table is updating the UI, and there's a small delay. There might be a small delay. It's still in alpha, but it's basically now a fragment of a document which you can share to somebody else. You can put that one, for example, in a SharePoint and expose that as a SharePoint, the latest data around our sales, and the data is coming from an Excel file or from some additional location. But it actually is super more interesting than that. If you're a developer, you can actually start implementing yourself fluid components. If you're a partner, you can start implementing fluid components by yourself. And what that means is that you can build, for example, this is a relatively ugly UI. You are basically building a component, and you can use the same component in multiple channels, multiple locations, and multiple hosts. In this case, you can see the connectivity between the fluid document and the SharePoint side. And when you write something on another side, the fragment of a document and your component is getting impacted on the other side. and you're able to make sure that the transitions are moving. Obviously, cross accounts, cross the world, it doesn't matter, it's happening behind the scenes. But obviously, it's not just about SharePoint, it's also about the other services as well. I think we're jumping there in a second. There we go. It could be multiple different services. It could be PowerPoint. It could be Outlook. And let's actually jump on when the Outlook is actually fully functioning. Here we go. You can actually see the same component with the real-time communication across multiple different instances, across multiple different Microsoft 365 services. And when you modify something in one location, it is actually transmitting the changes to the other one. And that's actually really cool. Because now you can think scenarios where you take a fragment of a document, you send that in email to somebody and say, can you modify that? And then you modify the value, and it impacts the original document in the other side. This is quite alpha still. We're in progress of starting the public preview of the document, which is the top left corner. And then there will be a public preview at some point for the development side of the house, and we'll see where we will end up actually with this one. But it's really, really cool technology, which is coming quite soon across the Microsoft 365. Cool? Yay! Good. I'm going to take a few more minutes just to close up, and then we'll go for the lunch. If you are a deaf person, please make sure that you are aware of our Patterns and Practices initiative. AKMS SPPMP is the small address over there. This is more than 500 samples. We're going to use the same program also for fluid preview and examples as well. We have more than 100 contributors in GitHub. There's a lot of stuff available. More than 31,000 tenants are using our open source components every single month. It is a massively used thing. So please take advantage. Our YouTube channel, they are all the YouTube videos. Many of them are in Finglish. I do apologize. Finnish and English, Finglish. But there's a lot of views on them as well. It's basically there for helping you to learn how to do site design, site script provisioning, SharePoint framework. If you're an end user, then maybe it's not that super interesting for you. But if you think about this journey, quite a long presentation. I jumped from here and there between the different versions and movements and really historical things. But the number one thing what we need to understand is really about the fact that it's all about learning every single day. Renew. Think about what it means for you as well. Satya is our latest CEO during my journey in Microsoft, and he's been doing an awesome job. I think his massive change comparing to Steve Ballmer, because we are moving into being a polite, open source, inclusive and diverse company, and we want that to be truly available, truly make that change happening. Well, we are already. But it's all about learning every single day. And sure, every now and then we fail, but it's all about moving forward and making sure that we have that transition moving. It is really around the fact that you can't be afraid of the change. I just love that GIF, that the face is so brilliant. Oh, I don't want to go there. But it's all about embracing that, making sure that it's going there. And let's stop as a final quote with this one from Gracie Hopper. She's the one who actually created COBOL language, original creators of COBOL language, which is actually pretty cool. But the most damaging phrase of the language is, it's always been like that, or that way. It's a great quote, and we need to learn to move forward and learn the new tools, new services, and taking advantage of all of them. But that's it from me, and thank you.
Thank you so much. A little gift for you.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
All the speakers, if you want to come, we will take a picture of the speaker on the stage. Donc c'est la pause repas, on reprend à l'heure indiquée sur l'agenda que j'ai pas en tête.